Last time, I ventured from Pleasant Valley all the way to Forsaken Airfield with little to no issues, great luck, and fairly clear skies. With my hands on the freshly acquired shortwave radio, I returned to the hangar to recoup and address a very important realization. You guys were all screaming at me, and I listened. Because I didn't even think to break apart the pry bars. Because A, I would figure that you would need like a hacksaw to do that, and B, I've just never needed scrap metal that badly. Thanks to you all, I was able to realize how much spare scrap metal I now had, which allowed me to pivot and make a improvised hatchet. A huge help for what was to come in the future. Plus, it helped me pass a bit of time because a blizzard had begun to rage outside. Once I had my new masterful creation, I used my remaining time in the hangar to repair some clothing, specifically the aviator cap that I found before, because I wanted to get that thing into the action as soon as possible. Once the blizzard subsided, I warmed up some coffee for the journey and went to make my way back to the vacant depot. It may look like a nice sunny day, but I was losing warmth at an incredibly fast rate. As I made my way out of the airfield, I began to plan my next steps. I need to grab fuel as I go because keeping ourselves warm with fires is going to be a must. Because we need to keep moving. What day is it? It's day 5. Which means I have 2 days. I have 2 days to get to the Bleak Inlet bunker before the cougar spawns. So I was going to go for Mountain Town first, but I think we're going to adjust because of that. I want to make sure I get the Bleak Inlet bunker before the cougar has a chance to spawn. If I was going to make that work, I had no time to waste. I kept going to the vacant depot, stopping once along the way to heat up some more tea and make a bunch of bannocks, and I arrived at the depot just a couple of hours past sunset with a little bit over 50% condition. I harvested the simple tools that I left behind there for some more scrap metal, and slept until just before dawn. The visibility was very poor when I woke up, but due to the fact that no predators spawn in Transfer Pass, I felt like it was safe to start heading out. So I stepped out into the negative 42 degree air. It's a little brisk, just a little crisp out there. And started to make my way back to the branch line. The cold started to be very hard to ignore though. I was freezing almost immediately and didn't have the fuel to start a fire that would actually warm my survivor up at all. This meant that the only way to really be able to warm up and stop the freezing would be to either turn back and go to the vacant depot, which obviously makes no sense to do, we're just gonna be going nowhere, and that cougar's not gonna wait for us. Or I could try to make my way towards the cave near the train cars in Transfer Pass. Obviously, I went with the second option. I got there as quickly as I could, but even with me rushing, I still lost all the condition that I had regained the night before. Once I had a fire going in the cave, I went out with our old pal Emma Stone to take down a rabbit that I could eat while I warmed up. Emma Stone, it's your turn to snap some necks. Well, I'll be snapping them, but you'll be helping. Oh, what a throw. Nicely done, Emma. Well done. Truly some outstanding teamwork right there. You know, the performance, it brings tears. It brings... Sorry, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. With our kill in hand, I used the time with the fire to harvest and cook the rabbit. But I also started to lay down the groundwork for some extra plans that I had cooking up. A stretch goal here is we are on a time crunch. But if I can make good enough time, being able to spare some time to craft any type of animal clothing is going to be huge. Because just any amount of temperature bonus we can get will help. I left the gut and hide from the rabbit in the cave to cure, and then I set out once again. I had been wanting to reach Poacher's camp before nightfall, but the cold and a couple of pesky wolves had slowed me down drastically. So I had to change plans. My main problem was that it was absolutely freezing. I scarcely found my feels-like temperature exceeding negative 35 degrees. And that had taken its toll as I found myself nearing 40% condition as I returned to Broken Railroad. If I tried to keep going to Poachers, then I would likely get there in very poor condition, and Poachers is not a very safe place to try to hunker down. So I had to pivot. I decided to give up on trying to get to Bleak Inlet before the cougar spawned because, at the rate that we were now going with the new temperatures, it just wasn't very realistic. My new plan was to go for the Hushed River Valley bunker first instead. This way, I would be in less of a direct time crunch and would have enough time to go down to the maintenance yard to rest for the night. The maintenance yard would not only provide a nice warm place to sleep, but also has a guaranteed jerry can that we can use for accelerant, and maybe, if I was lucky, a box of herbal tea to accelerate our recovery. Once I arrived, I searched the whole location, finding a couple more items that I could break down into scrap metal, some more coal, which I would definitely be needing an abundance of if the temperatures didn't improve, and I also lost my mind a little bit as well. I'm curious to try ketchup chips. It doesn't sound... It sounds bad if... Ooh. Once upon a time, there was a ghostly fuse. It floated. And then someone took it. The end. Good story? Yeah? Did you guys like that? What'd you think? I thought it was great, personally. You're just a hater. Cole! Anyways. Poetry. Anyway. I was lucky enough to find herbal tea, but not quite the way that I wanted. I was hoping for a box of herbal tea, but instead only found a single cup. But hey, I will take it. Beggars can't be choosers. So I drank it up and turned in for the night. Let's see, hopefully this gets us pretty dang good. Above 75% would be ideal. Holy moly! That is some serious condition gain right there. That night of rest was definitely the right choice, and I now had enough condition that I could pick up the pace a little bit. And man, I needed that extra condition because I stepped outside to negative 55-degree weather. In Broken Railroad. Holy fuck. I started to freeze extremely fast, and wasn't able to start a fire until the winds died down, which didn't happen until just after I reached Forlorn Muskeg. And it was at this campfire that my luck would truly, finally catch up with me. I think I'm gonna drink my last coffee as well here. What was that? Oh no, Haunted Mind. Maximum sleep time reduced, recover 50% less condition from resting. This is one of the worst possible afflictions we could have gotten as our first random one. My entire strategy up until this point was to run, freeze for a bit to keep some speed up, but then recover the next night. And that strategy had just been thoroughly kneecapped. With Haunted Mind, recovering condition by sleeping would be so inefficient that I could no longer rely on it. I essentially had two choices now. I could go extremely slow, starting fires as often as my fuel stores would allow, and inch my way forward when I have enough condition to spare, or I could try to keep my current pace and instead need to find some way to prevent my survivor from freezing while we traveled. As you guys all should know by now, going slow is not an option in this challenge. At day 48, the final affliction kicks in and I can't regain condition at all anymore. If I haven't finished the tails by then, I'm either in Sundered Pass or I still have to go there, and there's no way to not freeze up there. So we have to be done by then. Going slow, not an option. So I quickly started to pivot my strategy. I turned everything I had on me into tea, and warmed up any food that I had that would carry a warming up bonus. The drinks and food wouldn't stay warm for long without an insulated flask, but they would make a substantial impact on keeping myself from freezing. I headed out once again, and now I could really feel the pressure. The condition that I let myself lose after leaving the maintenance shed started to weigh heavily on me now that I wouldn't be able to regain it back easily. And by the time that I made it to the cave that brings us to the mountain town transition, I had fallen back down to 60% condition again. In that cave, I left a bunch of the loot that I wouldn't need for the journey to the Hushed River Valley bunker. By dropping it, I ensured that I could carry more supplies out of Mountain Town and have more wiggle room to avoid being encumbered. I rested for a couple hours as well, because I wanted to make sure that I could get up both rope climbs that lead to the actual town itself. Once I woke, I had one more task that I needed to accomplish before I could head into Mountain Town. Birch bark tea was already important for us in this challenge, but it was now more important than ever. Haunted Mind only affects our condition gained from sleeping, which means that having the restored condition effect from birch bark tea could actually prove to be a more efficient way of restoring our condition than sleep would be. I quickly searched through the birch forest that's just outside of the other end of the cave, and was able to secure a couple pieces. Once I finished up, I went into Mountain Town and made my way over to the rope climbs, dodging wolves, harvesting some burdock, and finding some more birch bark. I arrived at the rope climbs and slept for a little bit more next to a fire to warm up and try to restore enough fatigue to get me over both rope climbs. Okie dokie, well, pray we don't get frozen while we sleep. Every gust of wind freaks me out. Oh! I got scared for a second. That's fine. The Danger Kitties have officially arrived. And that isn't the only bad news. Not by a long shot. We're gonna jump forward in time to future stars as they head back into Mountain Town after getting the Hushed River Valley bunker. I could have sworn that I left a bunch of stuff in the cave. I'm gonna check the recording. Alright, I'm back. It's the next day. Apparently, I'm an idiot. Because that whole recording, like an hour and a half, 2 hour long recording, got corrupted. I had to pay some frickin' money to some stupid service to uncorrupt it to the best of my ability, but I don't think I was able to recover, like, the last 20 minutes of the recording. So not only could I not double check to see if I am just being dumb and forgetting where I placed things, but I also have just lost the footage, and there was some pretty intense stuff that happened there, which I'm pretty grumpy about, but I have to persevere, I suppose. Yup. Some of you might have noticed the lack of game audio up until this point. That's because I have had to try to stitch together what functioning parts of the recording I could from the corrupted file. One thing that got completely messed up was the audio timing in regards to the video. Fortunately, I always record my voice separately so that I have a backup for that just in case. But still, it was tough to find spots that worked well and that I could sync up easily. But honestly, what was the most disappointing part is that I lost the vast majority of the recording from when I was in Mountain Town and the River Valley. So, even though it's kind of not at all what I would have wanted to do here, I'm just gonna quickly recap what happened up until this point so that we can get back on track. I made it up the rope climbs and into the farmhouse where I got some more supplies and slept through the rest of the night. I skipped most of the houses inside of Mountain Town and instead went to Grey Mother's first, looted that up a little bit, and then went to repair the radio tower so that I could get to the bunker ASAP. I did some repairs and other maintenance inside of Grey Mother's house until about an hour or so before dusk, when I planned to head out towards the bunker. But literally, right as I was about to leave, a blizzard hit, and a bad one. Now, I'm extra sad that I lost this footage because this was a really intense and dramatic moment for me, because I had no choice but to go out into this blizzard. I just really did not want to risk missing the aurora, which I needed to get into the bunker. That being said, I was gonna lose a lot of condition on the way over there, and this was one of the areas that I am much less confident in being able to navigate in a blizzard. It was just, it was such a fun part of it, and I'm really sad that I couldn't get it here, but it is what it is. Anyways, I did manage to navigate the blizzard without too much of a problem. I got to the river valley just after the aurora put an early end to the blizzard. I searched the bunker, slept, and then set back out, getting us to where we now stand. Alright, moving on with the intact footage now. I searched this trailer on the way back into town and found a hacksaw. While I wouldn't need it for scrap metal anymore, it is still an incredibly helpful tool for us when we have to harvest frozen carcasses. The There wasn't much left for me to do in Mountain Town at this point, and I was eager to get to the next bunker. I already had more gameplay than the first part of this series, and I had only gotten to one of the 4 bunkers. Signal Void just takes such a long time. Honestly, the most annoying part about Signal Void in regards to this series is that I have to skim over a lot of details and speed it up a lot in order to make it all fit within a timely manner. Anyways, I grabbed some supplies that I left at Grey Mother's house and set out to leave the region, which went by without any issues. And as we're leaving the region, I do want to mention one final thing that I accomplished during our time in Mountain Town. I was able to harvest 2 deer hides and 2 gut, which means that, including the gut that I left curing in the branch line, I now only was 1 gut away from being able to make deerskin boots. The downside of this was that I have to carry that gut to a place where I could leave it to cure. Until then, I would have to deal with them making me a little bit stanky. Now back in Forlorn Muskeg, I recovered the items I left in the cave, and rested there before I set out across the ice. Just gotta pray to God that it's not too cold. But honestly, I got a really lucky start, but it looks like I'm getting more of the actual misery experience at the latter half of this. Not even latter half. Okay. Message received. I was at far too low condition at this point to even be thinking about braving a blizzard. So I went back up in the cave and I waited it out, making a fire to cook some bannocks, warm up some soups, and sing some little scout campy songs. But despite the fact that I wasn't in any immediate danger, this situation was worrisome. I had to use up my coal supplies to keep the fire going, which sucked because with how cold it's been, I would be needing every single piece of coal to stay warm outside. Plus, the blizzard itself completely threw off my goal of getting to the next bunker by nightfall. But eventually the blizzard did subside, and I started to make my way over to the Forlorn Muskeg radio tower, while dreaming of the future. Guys, I'm looking forward to Buried Echoes. That's gonna be such an easy tale to complete. Oh my gosh. Oh, what I wouldn't do to be on Buried Echoes right now. I had talked about this many times when I was playing, but oh, you have no idea how easy Buried Echoes is gonna be. It's gonna be the sweet reprieve after the slog that is Signal Void, and the calm before the storm that's gonna be Last Horizon. While Signal Void involves an obnoxious amount of travel, and Last Horizon takes place in the coldest region in the game, while also being infested with timberwolves, Buried Echoes is a tale that has you indoors for the vast majority of it, real nice and toasty-like. A couple flares to scare off some poison wolves, and it would be a cakewalk. I just had to get there, and oh man, Great Bear was not making it easy for me. But you know what is really easy and very rewarding? Is hitting the like and subscribe buttons while turning on notifications. It really helps out the channel, and lets me know that you guys are enjoying the content. Plus, you'll be like super duper cool as well. So, I mean, if you don't want to be cool, that's fine, but like, you know, that's on you, I guess. Loser. Must have been the wind. Anyways, I stopped to start a fire so that I could warm up some more teas and keep myself above freezing a little bit longer while traveling across the Muskeg, but not too long after that, the winds picked up, forcing me to keep moving. I had to scare off a wolf, and then immediately spotted a bear that I had to avoid as well. By the time I reached Poacher's camp, it was already nearing dusk. My pace was slowing down drastically with the conditions I had been facing, and my condition was suffering from it too. I needed to take a minute to reassess and decide what my best course of action would be. I think I'll rest today. I think if we have some more condition to like play around with, it'll allow us to do a lot more instead of having to constantly worry about losing more. So I think we're gonna just have a rest day. My goal is to be done with Signal Void by day 24. That would be on time. And we've gotten slowed down dramatically, but I still think we have plenty of time. It's just, you know, I think it'll be worth it. I decided to give my survivor a day to rest. While I was worried about spending so much time not moving, I concluded that the flexibility that I would get from the condition I'd restore would allow me to move faster going forward. so my new plan was to reach the Bleak Inlet Transition Cave, where I would spend the rest of my day. The main hiccup was that I was very low on food, but fortunately, Forlorn Muskeg is home to a ridiculously high amount of cattails, so I would just need to harvest some on the way to keep myself fed. But of course, Great Bear wasn't gonna hand me that on a silver platter, and had to throw a monkey wrench or two at me first before I could get comfortable. The wind is still too extreme to take torches with us. That's a bear. Just right there. Right on my face. So I guess I have to take a detour. The wind and the bear made the trip a bit more taxing than I would have hoped, but nothing too terrible. And I did have one other task that I needed to accomplish on the way to the cave. I had run fresh out of tea, and the warming up bonuses were the only thing allowing me to keep a decent pace at this point. So I would need to grab all of the reishi and rose hips that I could spot along the way, which of course isn't difficult at all. So as long as I keep my mind on the goal, focus, and make smart choices, all would go well. Loud cars. I want to sprint across this.
Jeez, this is cold.
Go, 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 go! Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, okay. That was scary. That was almost just me dying. Let's not do that again. Let's not make a decision like that again, because if I had messed that... I failed to remember that if I messed that up, I would have just died. That was so stupid of me. Hey, I mean, you gotta play with death to add some thrill to the challenge, right? I don't know what I have no idea what I was thinking in that moment. That was actually the closest I got to just flat out failing the challenge. But anyway, I made it to the cave just as the sun was setting with about 30% of my condition. I dropped the deer hides and gut, any loot that wasn't necessary for the trip to the radio tower and bunker, and I prepared for my day of rest. My plan was to sleep through this night and most of the next day, but a couple hours before dusk, I would set out to repair the radio tower, and then make it to the bunker before the aurora starts so that I can start a fire at the hatch and not have to risk running into the aurora cougar. And of course, everything went perfectly according to plan. After sleeping through the night, I went for a lovely morning stroll out of the cave to pick up all the rose hips and reishi mushrooms outside so that I could make them into some more tea. Then I spent the day resting and going over the plan. Like, I hit the tower right before it turns to dusk, like a couple hours before. Then I go over to the bunker, and I just start a fire so the cougar can't get me. And then I hop in, and then I'm planning on resting that night anyway, so I'll just hop in the bunker and sleep there. I think that's the plan. I think that's what we do. Unless we get screwed over by, like, a blizzard or something, but... that's a problem for me in 4 hours. I drank, right? I sure did. Do you guys want to guess what happened? Do you want to guess? I mean, how blizzarding is it really, right? Like, how blizzardy could it be? Pretty blizzardy. Yeah, pretty bad. That's pretty bad. That's not great. You know, I'll admit that. This blizzard put me in a very bad spot. It was getting very close to dusk, and I didn't even want to play around with the idea of approaching the Bleak Inlet bunker when an aurora cougar was nearby. But I also really didn't want to wait another day because of how much time I'd be wasting. So I decided to sleep for 2 hours, and if the blizzard hadn't passed by then, I would just have to hope for better weather the next day. If I have to do more than 2... then it's too close to night because I don't want to risk the aurora cougar. Ooh. Ooh, hello? Maybe? Very good. Huge. Okay. Luck was on my side. So much so, in fact, that I didn't have to deal with any wolves on the way over, except for the one that conveniently gave me a rabbit that it killed. Of its own free will. It wanted me to have it. Oi, numbnuts. What's up, buddy? Later. Sayonara, Sammy. At the same time, your favorite small game hunting duo started working towards another stretch goal as well. Another great big luxury would be getting enough spare time to harvest a ptarmigan, because the improvised installation will be amazing. In fact, actually, Emma Stone, your time has come. I think the amount of help that would cause... Thought I missed for a second. It just takes so long to harvest the down, but it'll be worth it for the insulation. I started a fire near the transmitter to keep me warm while I repaired it. And as I was preparing to do so, I got quite the unexpected find. Oh, Woltook! Oh, and it's in such good condition. Okay. That's a legendary pull right there. I was very, very happy to have a find like that. It had been a rough time since Haunted Mine set in, and getting that rush of excitement was quite appreciated. But I didn't get to sit with it for long. I'm trying to think about the best course of action with these carcasses we have, because if I carry them into Bleak Inlet... I need to get the car battery. If we carry it into Bleak Inlet, we simply will attract the attention of the cougar. I highly doubt that we will not have cougars on us because of how much scent that will cause. But I also don't really have a lot of time to harvest. I want to at least get the gut curing. Let's see what we can do. This will guarantee that the weather chills out enough for the aurora to start. Okay, second tower finished. Get the gut out. I'm gonna leave the carcasses in the cave so that we can get the food off of it later. By the time that I had finished with that, though, I only had a couple minutes before the aurora was going to hit. I rushed back to the cave, left the carcasses behind, and hurried to the bunker. And it didn't take long to hear the oh-so-familiar squeals of the Danger Kitty.
Did I say I hate
Jeez.
Because I really do.
I just hate how loud it is. You can never tell how close it actually is to you. See the bunker, though.
Do I? If I don't
No.
warm up.
Trying to go faster, Astrid. I really am. Okay. Fire, go! I choose you! Now, please! Need a second one. I will. I don't think... I don't need it. I'll do a cedar. I'm carrying too much cedar as it is. Chuck it. Go away. Can I not chuck it when it's not lit? Interesting. Okay. Warming up just a bit. Oh my gosh, we're so low. That's like... I want to say that's probably nearing 25% there. Maybe, I should make some food while I wait. Just in case. So, don't tell me what? Oh, come on. Maybe it was just one of those momentary gusts that won't come back, even though that never really is the case. Okay, that's a full aurora right there. We should be good to go in. I was in the clear and made it to the bunker. But, as I said in that clip, I was hurting big time. Despite all of my efforts to stay as warm as I could, I still had dropped down to 25% condition. I needed to slow down and stop taking risks, or I might soon find myself in a predicament that I couldn't find a way out of. Fortunately, I felt a lot better about staying still this time around because I had a lot more to do when I took a break. I rested through the night in the bunker and then dashed back to the cave in the morning. Once I was there, I gave myself another rest day where I spent the day harvesting the ptarmigan and rabbit that I left behind, preparing some more food and tea, and making sure that my clothes were in good shape. I now had myself 4 ptarmigan down, which might not sound like a big accomplishment, but harvesting the down takes a very long time. And it's not super easy to find a good enough stretch of time where I can safely harvest it all. After this rest day part 2 electric boogaloo, I woke up the next morning with slightly over 50% condition. Not amazing, but much better than I was doing before. I warmed up my teas and set out once again towards the final bunker before I would have to return to the far territories for good. My plan was to drop the hides and gut that I was carrying in the camp office as I passed it. But until then, I had to hope that the scent of the gut I was carrying wouldn't attract too many predators. Oh, those wolves are on me. There's 3 of them? There's 3 of them. Go around them. There's 4 or 5 of them. Wow. Yippee. Yikes. Yeah, you stay on me so none of the other ones are. Yeah, come on, stay on me. Another wolf. 6 wolves. Oh, that's not good. Flare time. I can't avoid this guy. Maybe I could have. Still, it's better safe than sorry. I managed to get to the camp office before that flare even went out, which I used to start a fire inside. While I had that fire busy getting water, food, and tea ready, I dropped the supplies that I wouldn't need for the trip out to Pleasant Valley before setting out for the dam. As I went through the southern river access, I spotted 3 burdock root, which was amazing for tea. The wind was very harsh, but I used a nearby tree as wind cover to start a fire that would keep me warm while harvesting, because, man, it takes ages to harvest burdock. While I had that fire going, our little hunting duo also got ourselves another rabbit, because I was running very low on food, and anything I could get my hands on to stretch out my food stores would definitely be worth it. The trade-off for that decision, though, was that I was getting very close to being fatigued, and I wanted to avoid losing any condition to that. The bright side is that the winds had just died down enough that the crows had come back out. I felt confident that the weather would stay nice for a little while, so I set down my bedroll to get a tiny bit of shut-eye before taking the final stretch to the dam. I'm gonna drop the rabbit for a second, but I'm actually gonna bring it to the dam to harvest, because if I can get some more hide and gut, I want to. Nope, not another fire. Let's be a bit ballsy and go for 2 hours, methinks. Oh. Oh no. Uh-oh.